I'm joined now by Mike Adeleye, who is a human capital development expert. Good morning to you, Mike. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, taking a look at the president's, palliative package, what do you make of it? Do you think that there will be a challenge, if you can, although that has been highlighted a couple of times, that there will be a challenge to achieve this social investment budget?
Thank you very much. I think, first and foremost, I must applaud the initiative in the first place. But I think there are one or two things, or one or two areas where I think there will be challenges. For example, he spoke about feeding 5.5 pupils, which is in the primary school sector. But if you look at the figure from the World Bank, Nigeria has over 20 million pupils, both private and the public sector primary school. Now, if you look at the indices, you'll find out that the public sector carries a chunk of the 20 million. Now, if we're talking about 5.5 million pupils to be fed, then it's a great idea in the first place, but what happened to the other ones? Because 5.5 million is just a little percentage of the total of what we have in here.
Which was why I think, there were already talks about removing that palliative from the budget already, before it now generated a lot of furore and there was a lot of uproar, and everybody says, why don't we still have it in the budget, have that 500 billion naira that is earmarked to take care of the poor and very vulnerable in the society. So now, but looking at the figures, those statistics that you've rolled out, it seems almost like is it achievable?
They will achieve at some point, but that figure. But my question is, what happened to the other? Because they have to tread with caution here, because people begin to point fingers at them that they've been selective. Who are these 5.5 people, pupils they're actually trying to feed? What happened to the rest of them, which is over about 10 other million? So they're going to have to look into those measures and think properly what and who actually benefit from it, because 5.5 is just a little bit percentage of the total of what we have in this country. So on that aspect, I think there's going to be a challenge in that area. Then also, I think I'm quite happy about the fund that's been budgeted for artisans, which is about 191.5 billion. I've been advocating for this for quite a long time. If you look at, we're talking about unemployment, how to really eradicate or bring down unemployment figures in this country. But if we don't train our youth, if we don't put them into where it's not just going to universities and polytechnics and tertiary institutions. We have areas whereby we're lacking behind. If we want to build a house, for example, which I've said here before, we don't have really experienced, skilled tilers, plumbers, and so on and so forth in this country. You have to go out of the country to go and bring these people. Now, that is other people taking the space of our unemployment opportunity here. And also, our monies are going out as well. So that fund, if it's being properly managed, it will go into, technical colleges, for example, where we used to have in the past, where we have people going to study all this sort of economic, structural courses like plumbing, like local engineering, electrician, and so on and so forth. So that is well applaudable. Then, of course, he also mentioned about the loans that's going to be given to traders and artisans in the areas of agriculture. We could feed ourselves in this country. And I think it's one of his priority that he's actually been talking about during his campaign season and period, that agriculture and mining is the area that we need to really focus on, which is quite great, because if we begin to focus on agriculture, that will surpass the economic advantage of agriculture will surpass the oil that we all put in our heads into. So, all in all, I think I give credit to the president's and his government on that, in the exception of one or two areas that we just mentioned earlier.
Okay, but then are there any lessons that we can learn from the previous schemes that were already in place? We had You Win, you know, that was there for in the last administration, and then we had I think that was the UN project that was actually launched and was really hyped about. Do you think that there are any lessons to be learned from that? Do you think that particular initiative should be continued, or should be an expansion, a further expansion? Maybe not necessarily these ones should benefit from, you know, the 500 billion naira that will be, you know, given to the poor, the vulnerable, but encourage them to be part of the development, to contribute their skills, just like what you mentioned already.
Let me share some light in this, which has really been born in my heart for a very long time. I mean, the last administration, I mean, they had the UN, they had the GIS program. It was a fantastic program, but they failed because they never focused on the area they were supposed to focus on. There was corruption in it. I mean, most employers in the country never heard about it. The awareness wasn't there. Even the graduates that were supposed to be beneficial of all this important program, they never heard of it. So it's like they had the money budgeted for it, but they failed to put out the information out there. So people could actually, stakeholders could actually come on board to benefit. So it was a failure. But if the government wants to pick one or two out of those programs, they have to really guard against that loopholes that made people to siphon money as a way of corruption, and it will work. Now, let's look about the NYSA. This is quite very important. I mean, the National Youth Service Corps. I've written quite some few tips on this in the public, and I think the government needs to look into it. The primary purpose why we have the NYSA is when you graduate, you go serve. They call it go and serve your country. But it's actually an avenue that you will go into, obviously, gain practical experience. Now, my question to the government is, why do we always have a military guy at the helm of the NYSA?
It's a paramilitary organization, the NYSC, is it not?
Well, if that was the purpose in the beginning, then obviously it's understandable, which is we should be like we have in Israel. Okay, but it's not. Now, you have the NYSC when they graduate, they post them to the NYSC. Now, you find out that some being sent to go and teach, some being sent to different areas, right? And I can tell you, it's a total, I've done a research on it, and anybody could question me on this, and I could stand to, to defend what I'm going to say. Now, a chunk number of these people, they never go to serve. But they have somebody signing in for them, saying they're serving. Okay? Now they're collecting some stipend at the end of the